So I'm supposed to give this back to you now? Okay. Congratulations. Thank you. Well, thanks for that wonderful, not introduction, but testimony almost. So first thing I want to do is thank the NFID for this award and my nominators, Tony Fauci, and seconders, Sam Katz, who are both previous recipients of this same Maxwell Finland award. I never had the privilege of knowing him. He was a person who spent his whole life, as Tony has just told you, at Boston City Hospital in his whole career, and he was a fantastic infectious disease physician, a researcher, trainer of many people who went on to have careers in infectious diseases. My only interaction, actually with the Boston City Hospital even, was when my husband and I, who were medical students at Stanford, were looking for internships. And so we were going around interviewing, and this was early days before there was any real mechanism for couples to be able to end up in the same place or the same training situation, which has now been greatly improved. So one of the cities that we were interviewing in was Boston, and so and included Boston City Hospital. And not me, but my husband was told that actually, Boston City Hospital is a great place to train, but there were some problems in the ER. And that it actually might be okay for a woman, but it was no place for a lady. And so we decided that maybe we wouldn't, that wouldn't be our place. And we ended up staying at Stanford. But a second place, the area that we had interviewed was in Cleveland, at Cleveland Metropolitan Hospital, which actually at that time was well known for people like us, that they actually kind of specialized in recruiting couples into their training program. And so that was one of the places, and we were very interested and were accepted there. As I said, we ended up at Stanford, but the contact at Cleveland Metropolitan ended up being an advantage because eventually we came to Johns Hopkins after a couple of years of clinical training at Stanford. My husband was interested in neurology, and they were just establishing a new department of neurology. And so one of the people that was being recruited to this new department of neurology was Dick Johnson. And he was coming from Cleveland Metropolitan Hospital. And he happened to have been on the internship selection committee. And so he remembered us, and he said, oh, I think these are people. And so that gave me an entree into his lab when I went. And I was interested in studying viral diseases. And he had what turned out to be a unique approach to understanding viral infections. Obviously, mostly he was interested in virus infections of the nervous system, but it was really understanding the pathogenesis. And it's now what we can say is interdisciplinary research, but basically, it was the idea that you needed the talents and the knowledge base from many different disciplines in order to understand a disease process that was a virus or other pathogen initiated. So you needed immunologists, you needed pathologists, you needed neurologists, you needed virologists. So people with each of these different kinds of expertise. And he really accumulated all of those people in his lab that then interacted with each other to try to eventually understand this pathogenesis. So as been mentioned, the viruses that I worked on were viruses that caused encephalitis, but they were mainly arthropod-borne. For the encephalitis, it was mainly arthropod-borne viruses. And for anybody who thought that we were done with any problems with infectious diseases only has to look at chikungunya and Zika virus right now. And mosquito-borne viruses are really continuing to cause problems and pose interesting new biologic issues that require this kind of integrated knowledge to really tackle. And the other was measles, and we keep thinking that measles is a solved problem, but it's not. It keeps reoccurring, and so being able to really put together these kinds of issues was the important mentorship, which has already been mentioned, that Dick provided and then was carried on in his lab, and then by the many people that he trained, and I was just one of those issues. So back to Max Finland is another thing that then perhaps we have in common is that I really have had my entire career at Johns Hopkins once I completed training at Stanford. And it's been a wonderful institution in order to spend an entire career, and I can compliment my dean, Mike Clegg, who is here tonight, but many of the leaders at that institution and the opportunities that they provided me. So thanks again for this award. It's really wonderful.